I can't believe this. Yesterday was a nice and beautiful spring day. Yeah, it was a little chilly, but the breeze wasn't that bad. And the sun was shining so brightly. All you did was focus on his warmth and not even care that it was a little cold outside. But now, look at this. Look at this. We have more snow. I thought spring was finally in full swing. But no, we've been kicked right back into winter. Is spring ever going to properly come? At this rate, it's gonna still be snowing in the summer. I don't think any of us wants that. But I guess we just have to deal with the cards we've been dealt. Nothing we can really do about it. Anyway, every pony, I have a new reading for today. And given a title, it's sure to warm us up a bit. The title of this story is called Hot Pepper Ponies, and it was written by Salt writer the Leviathan. I do hope you enjoy it, as much as I'm gonna enjoy a mug of nice hot cocoa when this is over. Hot Pepper Ponies, written by Salt writer the Leviathan. A small challenge. So, what did you call these again? Rainbow asked, pointing a hoof at the bowl of sharp-tipped, red and black striped peppers on the table. Applejack smiled, picking one up and showing everyone at the table. These peppers go by a few names, but for simplicity's sake, just call them dragon peppers. She placed the pepper back into the bowl before continuing. They're a rare kind growing in the Dragonlands. They go for 10 billion on the Scoville scale unit, you know? And that's very hot, right? Rainbow asked, looking at the peppers with a bit of hesitation. Don't be so scared, silly! Pinky chimed in from her spot at the table. We all have to eat one eventually, so hot or not, we'll all go through it. Speaking of participation, where's Twilight with the milk? She better not be skipping out on this. Rainbow gave a glance towards the doorway, thinking of what the purple alicorn could be doing to be so late. The crowd outside the door might have slowed that approach. Since they had announced the event, ponies have lined out outside of Sugarcube Corner, putting bits into the ponies' donation jar. Mr. and Mrs. Cake had volunteered to keep track of them so as to keep some sense of order in the restaurant. As they waited for their return, a commotion began outside, and soon enough Twilight Sparkle walked through the door with many excuses and pardons. Behind her, Starlight Glimmer made her way through the crowd, carrying a second set of milk and a saddlebag. Sorry we're so late, Twilight said, placing the bottles of milk she was carrying around the table. For one thing, we had to walk here or risk losing the milk. But we also had to make a detour to pick up Starlight's camcorder. How else are we going to get the people the reaction the donators want? The unicorn added, pulling the device out of her saddlebag. She quickly checked to make sure it worked, then put it away for use later. The ponies made idle chat, the sound of bits from the other room and a ticking clock showing any form of progress. Then the cake suddenly called out from the other room, getting the mayor's attention. We've made our first incentive, Mrs. Cake called out from the other room. The first one up is going to be Applejack. right, some action! Rainbow exclaimed, giving the earth pony a sinister smile. I can't wait to see you break down. Don't get your hopes up, Applejack said, picking up one of the peppers from the table. I've survived worse foods before. One of my grandparents made a mean chili, and this can't be half as bad as that. With that, Applejack threw the pepper into her mouth, making sure to show every chew to everyone around her. All the while, Starlight filmed it in the corner, making sure to film all sides. After about a minute or two of nothing happening, Rainbow let out a disappointed sigh and looked away. So much for the hottest pepper in Equestria you spoke so boldly about. What a ripoff. Rainbow huffed and sank back into her seat. Applejack merely shrugged. I've eaten hot foods before, so this isn't too bad. You'll get a reaction out of the other girls. With that, she popped open the milk and began to put it down. After another short time of idle chatter and the exchange of bits, the cakes once again called to the girls. We've met our next donation incentive. This time Mrs. Cake spoke out to the girls. Twilight, dearie, you're up next. Good luck! This better be good, or I'll just head out until it's my turn. Rainbow leaned back in her chair, watching as Twilight grabbed a pepper with her magic. This shouldn't be too hard, she spoke, examining the pepper all around. I'd studied some books on spices and how to eat them properly. I just hope they're as easy to do as they said. With that, she popped the pepper into her mouth. As soon as she started chewing and swallowed the pepper, she began hyperventilating, hoping to cool off her mouth. Unfortunately, this only made the pain worse. All the while, Rainbow was laughing at her frantic panting and hoof movement. Her laughter was cut short when Twilight's mane and tail suddenly burst into flames, and she ran around the table in a panic. The pony stuck under the table as she ran around. All the while, Starlight recorded it on her camera. After about a minute or two, Twilight went back to the table and chugged down the milk, her body returning to normal as soon as she did so. With a sigh, she sat back down at the table, grabbing a second glass and lightly sipping it. The others slowly got out from under the table, returning to their chairs in silence. Rainbow had a smile on her face, but didn't say anything about it. Soon enough, the girls resumed their idle chatter till the next donation was met. All right, Pinky, Mrs. Cake exclaimed from the other room. You're up next for the challenge. Good luck. Thanks for the support, Pinky exclaimed, grabbing a pepper from the bowl on a table. But I don't need it. The Pie family have stomachs of stone, so a little pepper isn't going to be that bad. With that, she threw the pepper into her mouth and swallowed it whole. Pinky seemed fine. Her expression stayed calm and unfazed by the pepper. Rainbow and Twilight, who were sitting closest to her, thought they could hear the sound of a boiling kettle. The two looked around, then saw that Pinky's legs were beginning to turn a bright shade of red, and it was spreading up her legs. The hissing began to get louder, and the two scooted their chairs away. Pinky's cutie mark seemed to swell slightly when the red reached her hips, and steam began coming out of her ears. Pinky quickly covered her mouth as her body began to glow red and steam poured out of her ears and mouth. Pinky's mane and tail seemed to inflate and float upwards as the glowing finally reached her head. Then, in a flash, she ran towards the window and screamed, a torrent of flames erupting from her mouth. "Leave it to Pinky to have the best reaction," Starlight muttered, as the pink pony ran to the cabinets in the kitchen and brought out a pack of balloons. She began quickly inflating them and placing them around the place, each of them floating as if they had been inflated with helium. After about 50 or so, her body seemed to return to normal, and Pinky let out a sigh of relief. She walked back to the table and downed her first glass of milk in one go. "So much for that stone stomach of yours, Pinky," Rainbow joked, giving the pink mare a pat on the back. "My stomach and my stomach are two totally different things, Dash," Pinky replied, taking a sip from the second glass. The girls once again talked, listening to the exchange of bits in the other room as they waited. Eventually, Mrs. Cake called out to them from the other room. "We just met our next incentive," she exclaimed, calling out to the others. "This event is really going by fast. Fluttershy, dearie, you're next. Good luck." The yellow Pegasus reached out to get a pepper, but was stopped by Starlight, who used magic to get her the item. "You sure you want to do this?" she asked, placing the pepper into her hoof. "I know that's the point of this, but are you sure you can handle these peppers?" "The ponies out there made their decision, and it would be shameful to let them down." Fluttershy threw the pepper into her mouth, quickly swallowing it. Starlight shrugged and readied the camera, the other girls watching with interest. "That wasn't so bad," she exclaimed after a while, before a blush began to form on her face. "Oh, could you girls excuse me for a moment? I'm having some stomach pains." The yellow Pegasus quickly got out of her seat and flew over to the bathroom in a hustle, her body seeming to quiver as she flew. Starlight brought the camera to the restroom, still filming despite the situation. I'm not going to describe what happened, but it's safe to say she didn't have fun in the bathroom. And after quite an uncomfortable few minutes of bathroom sounds and squeaks, Fluttershy finally came out of the bathroom. No one said a word as the bright red Pegasus went back to her chair, silently taking sips of the bottle of milk. Soon later, the cake spoke up again, breaking the uncomfortable silence. "All right, we met our second to last incentive," Mr. Cake said from the counter. "Rarity, looks like you'll be the next one up." The white unicorn gave a smile and picked up one of the peppers from the table. "The ponies have spoken, so I guess it's my time to do this. Wish me luck." With that, she began to chew up the pepper in her mouth before swallowing it. Rarity's cheeks began to flush, and she backed out of her chair, her body quivering. She seemed to be in heat, and the unicorn quickly ran to the restroom, Starlight's camcorder right behind. She quickly summoned a dildo and hold it! What the? I didn't type that. Who's doing this? I am, silly. Wait, this is text format, so it's from the table. Guess I shouldn't be surprised. Why are you doing this exactly? This is a bit extreme for your fourth wall break antics. Well, I had to stop you from finishing that description. This is a story for all ages, so we can't do any naughty things here. Oh, come on. Most of the people who are reading this are old enough to club to you. Not that I do that myself, but, you know. It's okay. Your secret's safe with me. Wink. Let's just skip over that like you did with Fluttershy and just finish the story, okay? Sure thing if it means I get back to reading this. Okie dokie dokie. Hope we can talk again sometime. Bye! Okay. Where was I? Pepper Challenge. Rarity. Oh, yeah. After a few very uncomfortable minutes, Rarity finally came out of the bathroom. Her exhausted face and angry eyes told everyone not to say a word. She began sipping the milk, her eyes daring anyone to say something about what happened. But no one did. The minutes dragged on in silence, only the sounds of the cakes receiving donations breaking said silence, till they came into the room carrying the bags of donations. "We did it, girls," Mr. Cake stated, shouldering the bags on his back. "We managed to raise all the incentives for the orphanage." "We will let you girls finish up here," Mrs. Cake added. "We'll go deliver the money to the post office to have it shipped to the orphanage. We'll see you girls later." With that, the two walked out of Sugarcube Corner, leaving the girls alone. "Guess that means I had to do this now," Rainbow stated, hesitantly picking up a pepper. "What's with the cautious nature?" Applejack mocked, giving her a look. "You were the one who was so eager to do this. Why so scared now?" "What? Me? Scared of a little pepper? No way! Just trying to build the atmosphere is all." And putting her words in her mouth, she vigorously chewed and swallowed the pepper. It only took a few seconds for the effect to kick in, and Rainbow began coughing and sputtering on the ground. It wasn't long after that her stomach rejected the pepper and did so through her mouth. The girls had a good laugh about this, despite the gross situation, and helped Rainbow to her feet, giving her the glass of milk to help. The girls helped clean up the mess, then left Sugarcube Corner back to their own homes. Later that night, Twilight sat in her bed, smiling at the latest news headline. Oh, how a few ponies saved an orphanage by eating hot peppers. And that was Hot Pepper Ponies, written by Salt Rider the Leviathan. For one thing, I do apologize for, well, some of the flubs that I made during this reading. Also, if you read along with me, you'll see that I kind of messed up a bit between who was speaking with the girls saying who was up next. First, it started off as Mr. Cake, and then Mrs., and then continues it like that. But for some reason, my eyes kept reading Mrs. Cake instead of Mr. Cake, so that was a little bit of a mistake on my part. I apologize for that one deeply. This was quite the funny story, and I think it is a challenge going around now, actually. Not like I would do it myself. I value my taste buds, and I hear the challenge is actually the Ghost Pepper Challenge, and I think that one actually ruins your tongue. Like, for life ruins your tongue. So, I will never, ever, ever do a challenge like that. The only peppers I eat are cooked ones. and those don't burn my mouth as badly. But I do hope you enjoyed this reading, every pony. I'm Lotus Moon, and I want to wish you all a good morning, afternoon, evening, or night wherever you are, every pony. Good night.